Hello, my name is Dr. Nish Sonwalkar. I am co-chair of the EdTech group at MIT's Enterprise Forum, and I'm also educator for last 20 years. And today we will talk in this session about competency gaps and competency-based learning. Competency gap is a term which is often used in many different areas. Even politicians use it to say that how American system has gone down because of the increasing competency gap. We talk about demographics and their competency gap, that black Americans and Hispanic have competency gap with the other races. And they also talk about competency gap about different nations. And as we say that America is slipping in terms of the competency of the high school student, and we have gone from, I think, first or second place to now 12th, and what I hear now is almost 16th place in this chart of competency across the nations in high school. So now the question is that can we create a system which is competency based? And my contention is that yes, we can indeed do that. And so first we have to define what are the systems which are not competency based. So the systems that are informational based, which is based on the learning management system, learning content management system, or any of the education technologies. For example, if you have tutorials online, or if you have different kinds of means of animations and simulations online, those are the chunks that you can use to enhance the learning process, but they essentially do not provide a systematic basis for developing competency. So how do we measure competency? So today's system in the universities and also outside universities depends on assessments. And these evaluations and assessment, mostly assessments, are based on exam system. An exam system, in my view, is completely flawed because it is based on 3-point system. So you have 3 midterms or 2 midterms and a final. And if you do not perform in that 1.5 hour or 3 hour exam, too bad. We will consider that you do not have competency. Now is that really true? And I challenge that notion, because I think our educational system, which is completely based on this exam system, unduly puts pressure on the students, and they do not perform well in the exam. So we do not know their competency. So a competency-based system has to continuously measure growth in the learning of the learners by doing formative assessments at every level, at every task which is given. And the goal has to be not punish, but to increase the competency. So if you did not do well in competency-based system, you have to provide an alternative pathway or a different way of learning that you have not used before. Because if you have not learned in one way, we have to provide multitudes of ways that you can figure out and get to the competency. So we can start with, let's say, 20% competency based on informative assessment. Then we give you a task to learn, and then we measure, and you see that you have not learned. So now we vary learning strategy, and let's say you were apprentice learner, and we change it to incidental learner. And with that competence, learning strategy, now you develop your competency. And now in the assessment, you get to 30%. So increasingly a system which is based on your formative assessment evidence provides you continuous feedback on how you can improve. That's how you can get to the 100% competency. And I will tell you, with my experience and data I've collected over the last 20 years, there's nothing more motivating to any learner to see himself improve. So if I was 20% competency and if I did a learning strategy based adaptive system, and it provided me the right feedback, and I went to 30%, I'm now motivated. So we normally put threshold of 80% in our adaptive systems, where a student has to get to that competency by continuous improvement. And at every continuous improvement cycle, we measure it. And we collect sufficient amount of statistical evidence to prove that you do have that competency. And so when you go to 80%, you should stop, because that's our threshold. But every learner wants to get to 100% competency. And that's how we can fill the competency gap. And the competency gap, what I mean is about the skill level or the level of expertise you have in that particular subject matter. And so if I give you a problem in that area, are you able to solve that problem on your own without assistance and with ease that you have in terms of what you learned in that subject matter? So that level of comfort in doing tasks in that particular competency area, which is very important. Now let me also address another issue about competency gap in general. That is about what's happening with the workforce development. Now there are almost 36 million Americans, and we are talking about only United States of America, who come under less than competency level 1. So the workforce development area and Department of Education and PIAC reports, they have created a level of competency. Level 1 competency for the adult learners is your literacy. Can you read and write? Can you follow an instruction? Level 2 goes to that, do you have also numeracy? So these are 5 levels from very, very basic to level where you can be employed. Employability, they call it. And if you look at 36 million of the Americans are below level 1. So if you have to go after 36 million people and you have to do classroom, there's absolutely no way. It will probably take 50 years to make some impact on this 36 million. And that's where online adaptive system that can become available to large number of masses in the sense of massive open online courses or some such experiment, that is the way to improve the competency. And what I mean by competency, that they go from level 1 to level 5 using continuous adaptive feedback and continuous adaptive improvement. So that's the competency-based learning, and every system that is now utilized in the colleges, university, or even workforce, or even the high-stakes education areas like surgical training, or the Air Force pilot training, or people who work in the nuclear power plants. All that has to ensure that you have 100% competency and no less. So this system where you give people D grade or C grade and promote them is not going to cut. And that's why we need competency-based system. And the only system that can provide you are going to be the one which are intelligent and adaptive systems.